I'm sitting on the cold concrete front steps of the house I've lived in for 4 years when my sister's silver car slows to a stop at the curb. It's 4:47 inches the afternoon, and the November wind is cutting right through my jacket, but I haven't moved in 40 minutes. My 3-year-old daughter is asleep in my lap, her head tucked under my chin, her small fingers curled around the strap of my bag. I have one duffel bag beside me. One. After 4 years, my sister rolls down her window and leans out. I can see the exact moment her face changes, the confusion, the calculation, then something colder and very still. "Maya," she says. "Why are you sitting outside?" I look at the front door. At the brand new brass deadbolt that wasn't there when I left this morning to drop Lily at daycare. At my key, which I tried 4 times before the reality settled in my stomach like a stone. "My husband changed the locks," I say. "He says the house is in his name. He says I need to find somewhere else to stay while we figure things out." She doesn't say anything for a long moment. She just gets out of the car, walks up the path, and sits down beside me on the steps in her scrubs. She's just come off a 12-hour shift at the hospital. She smells like antiseptic and coffee. She doesn't touch me yet. She just looks at the door. "How long?" she asks. And that question, so simple, so quiet, is the one that breaks something open in me. "Since Lily turned 2, I whisper. "1.5 years." She takes a slow breath. "Why didn't you call me?" I look at my daughter's sleeping face and try to find the words for something that has no clean edges. "Because it didn't look like what I thought it would look like," I say. That's the whole trick of it. It never looked like something I could point to. She waits. My sister has been an emergency room nurse for 8 years. She knows how to wait. It started with my sister-in-law moving into the spare bedroom. That was the first degree of heat. My husband's younger sister had just gone through a breakup and needed somewhere to stay, just for a few months, and I said yes because I loved my husband and his family was my family, and that's what you do. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a Vitamix blender and a very clear vision of how a household should run. She started cooking. That was how it began. She would make dinner without asking and then comment, very gently, very warmly, that Lily was so thin, didn't I think she was thin? And maybe the organic toddler pouches weren't as nutritious as actual meals. Had I read that study? And I was working. I was shooting weddings on weekends and editing during the week and managing a client inbox that never emptied, so I was grateful. I thanked her. I let her cook. Then it was my husband stepping in for the finances. He was a financial planner. It was his area of expertise. We both agreed early in our marriage that he would handle the accounts and I would focus on building my photography business, and for 2 years that worked fine. Then, when Lily was born and the postpartum exhaustion hit me like a wall, he started moving things. Just small things, he said. Consolidating. Simplifying. He moved my business income into the joint account so it was easier to track. He set up auto-pay for everything. He said I had too much on my plate and he wanted to carry some of the weight, and I was so tired, so deep underwater with a newborn and a freelance business, and a mother-in-law who kept calling to check that her son was eating well, that I said, "Thank you." I said that again. I thanked him. My sister's jaw tightened when I told her that part, sitting on those cold steps. She was staring at the deadbolt with the steady, focused look she uses when she's assessing a situation in triage. I kept explaining, because I needed her to understand the architecture of it before she reacted. There's a way that people try to help, and there's a way that people build a cage so slowly that by the time you feel the bars, you've forgotten what open air felt like. My sister-in-law wasn't helping me. She was replacing me. Every time I tried to do something in my own home, she had already done it better. Every time I disagreed with her, my husband would find me later and ask, very patiently, if I was feeling okay, because I'd seemed irritable lately. He said I'd been scattered. He said the sleeplessness from the baby was clearly still affecting me, even though Lily was sleeping through the night by then. He started managing my schedule. Just the calendar app, just so we stayed organized. He added my sister-in-law as a shared user so she could coordinate childcare. Then he started commenting on my bookings. Did I really need to take that job in March? Lily would need me around more. Wasn't I overwhelmed enough? He said it gently. He said it with love. But I took fewer bookings. Then fewer still. My camera bag disappeared from the mudroom one afternoon. I asked where it was. My husband said he put it in the garage because my sister-in-law had tripped on it. And then one weekend when I went to get it for a family portrait session, it wasn't in the garage. I asked again. He said he didn't know what I was talking about. He looked at me with that careful, patient expression and asked if I'd been sleeping enough. That was the first time I thought, something is wrong with me. Not with the situation. With me. And once that thought takes hold, it spreads roots you can't see. My sister stood up off the steps. She didn't raise her voice. She just stood up and walked back to her car and opened the passenger door and looked at me. "Get Lily in the car," she said. "We're not doing this on the front porch." I recognized her tone. It was the same one she uses when a patient is going into shock and doesn't know it yet. The drive to her apartment was quiet. Lily woke up in the backseat, and asked for her cup, and my sister reached back without missing a beat and handed her the travel mug of juice she kept in the center console for her own kids. My daughter drank it like this was perfectly normal, like being carried out of our house in a duffel bag was just another Tuesday. 3-year-olds have that mercy. They trust the adults around them completely. My sister waited until Lily was settled on the couch with cartoons before she sat across from me at the kitchen table and looked at me with her full attention. "Tell me everything," she said. "Not the edited version. Everything." So I told her about the camera bag. About how I'd searched the garage 3 times and then found a bill of sale in the recycling bin, crumpled under a takeout container. My husband had sold the bag with all my lenses to a camera shop 40 minutes away. $1,200. I confronted him. He said the equipment was sitting unused and we needed the money, and he hadn't realized I would be upset about it. And then somehow by the end of that conversation, I was the one apologizing for reacting badly. I told her about my business account. About how I tried to log in to pay a vendor invoice and found the password had been changed. When I asked my husband about it, he said he'd updated the banking security protocols across all our accounts and he would get me the new credentials, but the credentials never came, and when I asked again, there was always a reason. He was on a call. Lily needed something. He'd get to it tomorrow. I told her about my passport. About how I'd wanted to take Lily to visit my college roommate who'd moved to Canada, and when I looked in the file drawer where we kept documents, my passport wasn't there. My husband's was. Lily's was. Mine was just gone. He said I must have misplaced it. He said this very kindly. He offered to help me look and then got distracted and we never looked, and I stopped asking because asking about anything had started to feel like detonating something I couldn't control. My sister was quiet for a long time. She has a way of being still that most people can't manage, a stillness she learned in trauma bays where stillness is a tool. "Did he ever threaten you?" she asked. "Hit you? Anything like that?" "Never," I said. That's why I didn't leave sooner. I kept measuring it against what I thought abuse was supposed to look like. There were no bruises. There was no screaming. He never called me names. He was always so calm. So reasonable. And I kept thinking, if I could just be calmer, if I could just be less reactive, it would go back to the way it was. She nodded once, slowly. That's exactly what they count on. I felt something shift in me when she said they. Like she was confirming what I'd been afraid to let myself name. She stood up, went to her room, and came back with her laptop. She opened it and looked at me. "You said your business income was going into the joint account. For the past 2 years, yes. Do you know what happened to it?" I stopped getting statements. "He said he switched us to paperless." She typed for a moment, then turned the screen toward me. "You're still listed as an account holder on the joint account. Log in." My hands were shaking when I typed in the credentials. The balance loaded. $412. I had deposited over $60,000 into that account in 2 years of wedding bookings. $60,000, after expenses. My sister-in-law didn't have a job. My husband's salary was good but not extraordinary. Where had $60,000 gone? My sister took the laptop back and started looking at something else. She was quiet for 3 minutes, and when she looked up, she had the same expression she probably has when she reads a scan and finds something that can't be unseen. "Maya," she said. "I need to show you something." She'd pulled up the public business registry for our state. My photography business had been registered under a new LLC structure 8 months ago. The registered agent was my husband. The business address was his office. My name was there as the owner of record, but every piece of operational paperwork had been filed with his contact information. I hadn't done that. I hadn't changed anything. "There's more," she said. She turned the laptop back around. "A loan application. Submitted 14 months ago under my business name. $42,000 from a private commercial lender. The contact for repayment inquiries was my husband's email address. The funds had been dispersed to an account I didn't recognize. My signature was on the application. I have very specific handwriting, and that signature was close. Very close. But it wasn't mine. The loop on the Y was wrong. My sister pointed at it before I could say anything. "He practiced," she said. "That's not a quick forgery. He practiced your signature." I felt the floor tilt. I put both hands flat on the table to steady myself. "The camera equipment," I said slowly. "The lenses. The bag. That was my Canon R5 and 3L series lenses. That's not $1,200. That's $15,000 worth of equipment." My sister closed the laptop. "He sold it for $1,200 at a camera shop because he needed the money quickly and he didn't think you'd figure out what it was worth." "Why?" I asked, even though I already knew. I just needed to hear it said out loud. "Because your sister-in-law opened a salon," she said. I looked her up. She has an LLC filed 6 months ago. A commercial lease on a retail space downtown. The startup costs for a salon that size are $40,000-$50,000, minimum. Where do you think that money came from? The room was very quiet. From the living room I could hear the cartoon Lily was watching, something cheerful about a dog and a fire truck. He had been running my business, my name, my credit, my reputation, running all of it like a machine designed to funnel money toward his sister's dream, while I watched my daughter and thanked him for carrying some of the weight. My sister stood up and picked up her phone. "I'm calling my friend at the DA's office," she said. "Wait," I said. She stopped. "I have something." I reached into the duffel bag I'd grabbed on the way out and pulled out a manila envelope. It was bent at the corner from being stuffed under the lining of a cosmetics bag for 6 months. I smoothed it out on the table. My sister sat back down. I'd started collecting things 8 months ago, after the first time I tried to access my business account and was locked out. I didn't say anything. I just started paying attention differently. Every time my husband left his home office unlocked, I photographed documents on my phone. The business loan agreement, the LLC filing, a series of wire transfers to my sister-in-law's account, text messages between them that I'd screenshot when he forgot to log out of the shared tablet we kept in the kitchen. I had photographs of the bill of sale for my camera equipment. I had a screenshot of an email between my husband and the camera shop owner. I had 3 months of wire transfer records showing money leaving our joint account in regular amounts, always to the same destination account. I had a photograph of my passport, tucked behind a false panel in the back of his office closet, which I'd found by accident when I was looking for Lily's birth certificate. My sister looked through everything slowly, the way she reads patient charts. Methodically. Without interrupting, when she got to the photograph of my passport, she set it down and looked at me. "You've been building this case," she said. I was terrified that if I walked out with nothing, I'd lose Lily, I said. "He has more money than me. He knows how to make financial documents say whatever he wants them to say." I needed to have something they couldn't explain away. I needed him to be more afraid of me leaving than of me staying. She nodded. Slowly. And then something in her face shifted, not just concern anymore, but something that looked like respect. "Let's go get Lily her dinner," she said. "And then tonight, we're going to do this right." That night, after Lily was asleep in my sister's guest bed with 3 stuffed animals and my sister's cat curled at her feet, we sat at the kitchen table with a pot of coffee and my sister's friend on speakerphone. Her name wasn't important. What was important was that she had been a family law attorney for 11 years before moving to the DA's office, and she had a voice like cold marble, smooth, dense, absolutely immovable. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for exactly 4 seconds. "The forged signature on the commercial loan is fraud," she said. "Using a spouse's identity to obtain credit without consent is a criminal offense. The wire transfers to his sister, if they can be traced to funds that came from your business accounts or the loan proceeds, that is potentially conspiracy to commit financial fraud. The withholding of your passport is unlawful. You said there are text messages between him and his sister discussing, and I'm quoting what you read me, keeping things quiet until the salon is off the ground." "Yes," I said. "I want copies of everything you just described by 9 tomorrow morning," she said. "And I want you to do nothing. Don't go back to the house. Don't confront him. Don't answer his calls. Can you do that?" I said yes. "Good." She paused. "And Maya? Don't apologize to him, not for any of this. People who do what he did count on the other person feeling guilty for finding out." I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in the dark in my sister's guest room with my daughter's small warm body tucked against my side, and I looked at the ceiling and I thought about the woman I'd been 4 years ago, when I married my husband in a garden in June with yellow flowers in my hair. She had no idea. She thought love was something that protected you. She hadn't learned yet that sometimes the people who say they love you are the most careful students of where your defenses are weakest. But she also hadn't known what I knew now, that the same patience I'd used to survive the quiet waiting, the careful watching, the slow accumulation of proof had built something they couldn't take apart in one conversation. 2 days later, my sister drove me back to the house. It was a Saturday afternoon. My husband's car was in the driveway. So was my sister-in-law's. My sister didn't ask me if I was ready. She just got out of the car and walked up the path, and I walked beside her. My husband answered the door with a look of careful, practiced relief. He was good at performed emotion. He'd had years of practice. "Maya, thank God," he said. "I've been so worried. I'm sorry about the locks, that was an overreaction. I just thought if you had some space." My sister stepped forward. She was still in her scrubs from her morning shift. There is something about a woman who works in trauma care that doesn't allow for certain kinds of theater. She just looked at my husband with the same flat, assessing gaze she uses on patients who are trying to tell her they're fine. "We need to come inside," she said. It was not a request. My sister-in-law was in the kitchen. She came to the doorway when she heard voices, and her face went through several expressions very quickly before settling on something bright and defensive. "Oh, you brought backup," she said, aiming it at me with a small smile. "Are we doing this dramatically?" "We're doing this legally," my sister said, and set her phone on the kitchen table. On the screen was a document. My husband looked at it. He looked at me. The relief performance was gone. What is this? That's a copy of the commercial loan application filed under Maya's business name 14 months ago, my sister said. With a forged signature. I have a friend who has already confirmed the forgery with a handwriting analyst. She also has copies of the wire transfer records, the LLC restructuring documents, and approximately 40 text messages between you and your sister discussing how to manage Maya's access to their shared finances while your sister's business was being funded. The kitchen went very quiet. My sister-in-law set down the glass she was holding. You went through my phone, my husband said, looking at me. Not angry. Careful. Recalibrating. You left the tablet logged in, I said. Many times. Maya, I can explain all of this. The business restructuring was for liability protection. The loan was taken out in my name without my consent, I said. Using my forged signature, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a felony. He shifted tactics so smoothly I almost missed it, the way he always had. He looked at my sister-in-law, then back at me, and his voice dropped into something gentle and concerned. You're exhausted, he said. You've been struggling since Lily was born. I know that. I've been covering for you and maybe I handled some things wrong because I was trying to protect you and... Stop. My sister said it quietly, but it landed like something solid. She's not struggling. She's been documenting. For 8 months. And what she documented is a paper trail that your sister's salon is built on stolen money. My sister-in-law made a sound that was half laugh, half panic. That is completely. $42,000, my sister said. Disbursed through 3 transfers. I have the account records. I have the corresponding deposits into the business account your sister opened for the salon. I have an attorney at the district attorney's office who reviewed everything last night. She looked at my husband steadily. You have one opportunity here. Return what you took, sign whatever you need to sign to give Maya full and unencumbered access to all accounts, and return her passport. Today, or the packet goes to the DA's office Monday morning and you explain the forged signature to a judge. My husband was very still. He had the look of a man watching the exits close off one by one. My sister-in-law turned to her brother and said his name in a sharp, low voice, and something passed between them, a look I'd seen 100 times in 4 years without understanding what it was. Not a look between a brother and sister. A look between partners. I stepped forward, and I felt something shift in my chest when I did. Not rage, not grief. Something clearer than either. I want my passport, my business account credentials, and the title to the camera equipment or its cash equivalent back by tonight, I said. I want the LLC restructuring reversed and my contact information restored as the primary on all business filings. I want the loan repayment obligations transferred out of my name, in writing, by a real estate attorney, not you. I looked at my husband. And I want Lily. You can't. She's my daughter, I said. And everything you just built your defense on, the narrative about me being scattered, exhausted, unable to cope, all of that is on paper now, in your own words, in your texts. You told your sister I was too distracted to notice the loan. You told her I would never check the LLC filings. You documented your own plan. So if you want to go to a custody judge and argue that I'm unfit, you're going to have to explain, under oath, how you knew I wouldn't notice, and what exactly you were hoping I wouldn't notice. My sister-in-law sat down. She looked, for the first time since I'd known her, like a person who was genuinely frightened. My husband looked at the floor for a long time. When he looked up, whatever performance he'd been running had simply stopped. He just looked tired. And ordinary. Not the careful, patient, loving man I'd thought I married, but also not a monster. Just a person who had made a calculated choice a long time ago and was now watching the calculation fail. The passport is in my office, he said. In the closet. I know where it is, I said. I walked past him and got it myself. The drive back to my sister's apartment was quieter than the drive out. Lily had fallen asleep again, her cheek pressed against the window. The late afternoon light was doing something beautiful with the clouds, the kind of sky you want to photograph, and I noticed it. I hadn't noticed things like that in a long time. You okay? My sister asked. No, I said honestly. But I think I will be. She nodded. The following weeks were not a movie. There was no triumphant moment of the gavel coming down. There was a divorce attorney who had the kind of steady competence that costs money I didn't currently have. There was a forensic accountant who spent 3 weeks going through 2 years of financial records and emerged with a number $68,000. That was the total. The loan. The business income, the equipment. When the forensic accountant put it in a report with that number at the top, I sat with it for a while. $68,000 is a lot of photographs. A lot of early mornings and sore feet and editing sessions that went until 2 in the morning while my daughter slept. My sister-in-law's salon had its grand opening the week my husband received the formal fraud complaint from the DA's office. I know because she posted about it online, the champagne and the ribbon and the lights, before she took everything down 3 days later. It is 4 months later now. I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment with high ceilings and a window that faces east. It's mine, my name on the lease. My name on the utilities, my credit restored to where it should have been. Lily has a room painted the pale yellow she picked herself, and she started sleeping through the night without crying for me, which is either a triumph or a heartbreak depending on the moment. I still have my camera. It's a new one, a decision I made with my own money, from a booking I took on my own terms. My sister comes on Sundays. She brings food she claims she made but always clearly bought from the place on the corner, and Lily climbs all over her and I make terrible coffee and we don't talk about everything that happened most of the time. We just sit in the morning light and let it be quiet. I thought leaving would feel like an ending. I thought I would grieve more than I have, and maybe I will, maybe grief works on a delay. But mostly what I feel, sitting in this apartment on a Sunday morning with bad coffee and my daughter in my lap and my camera on the table and my name on my own lease, is something I forgot I was allowed to feel. It doesn't have a dramatic name. It's just Tuesday. It's just mine. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. Because wherever you are, whatever Tuesday you're sitting inside, I hope it's yours too.